The recording started now. And Sally, this is just basically how I envisaged for today is an introduction session. It's kind of for us to um, sort out questions we might have, expectations, and the kinds of ways in which we would work together. And any questions people might have, I'll keep in mind what I want to do, and I would like students to also keep in mind what they want to do so that we all achieve our little goals. So maybe I'll just start with your questions first, if you had any, before we actually go and listen to me. How about that? Sally, would you have any questions of your own?
No, not really at this stage. Probably my questions are more about assignment 1 than anything else.
Assignment 1. Well, that's what matters, actually. Amazingly, that's what really matters. I mean, you know, that's why assignment 1 is created, to facilitate learning, and that's what we will be discussing today, because that's all that matters. So what questions would you have about assignment 1?
I guess I'm not really sure what to expect. I haven't done an e-profile before. So as far as literacy goes, I'm not sure how academic this needs to be, or whether it's supposed to be a bit more of the animations and informative rather than like academic sort of writing as such.
Okay. I just make sure, but Laura, can you hear us? Laura, can you hear us? Just would be good if you could. Okay, the answer is very simple. This is a university, and even if an assignment to a student sounds like kind of relaxed and you know, just write a profile and so on, never ever get fooled. It is always academic, and it always will ask you for references, and it will always ask you to argue your point and demonstrate knowledge. There's nothing about profile and portfolio which is relaxed or informal. Can you hear me, Sally?
Yes, I can, yeah.
Yeah. So I have seen, I've taught this unit a few times by now, and I've been adjusting it and changing things every semester because I learn things and I try new things. But I have noticed that very often, that's why this Collaborate today is so important. Very often students, in fact, 80% of students think that as soon as they see the word portfolio, that means just chatty narrative. But then you have to look at it from the perspective that it is like 40% of your assessment. Or I don't know how much it is. I'm not seeing the learn line now. But it is assessed by me. So I can't assess chatting or narrative of sorts. I will be looking for evidence of your learning.
I understand that. I guess I'm just trying to get my head around exactly what it is that you want, because is it all about us and our learning and our experiences with literacy, not necessarily what you know, what is taught or that sort of thing. Like I guess that's where I'm finding that I've just not got my head around the actual assignment yet.
Okay, well, I didn't actually prepare myself enough for the just trying to find the criteria of the assignment. Have you got the criteria of the assignment in front of you?
Yes, I do, yeah.
Right, so it actually says it very clearly what is expected. And another thing from experience, I noticed that students often miss the this assessment criteria. So there's an assessment task described, and then assessment criteria are not actually very often are not taken seriously, and they need to be taken seriously.
Yeah.
So the assessment criteria will tell you exactly what is expected. You have to, I mean, I really would have to change the window through which I'm looking now. So I'll just have a look.
That's okay.
Assignment.
That's all right.
I'll just go to assignment information myself, and I'll just pull it out. So what it says: develop a multimodal literacy profile of yourself. So what they will probably, I mean, what I, as a result, because I'm teaching it this time, what I will want is to see that you can, what do you think, what multimodal literacy profile might mean?
Use different modes of literacy.
So, so do you know what that means?
Yeah, just different forms. So it might be computer, Facebook, all that sort of stuff.
No, it actually doesn't. It actually doesn't. It actually may mean lots of things, in fact. But in this case, multimodal means using different forms of writing. So it could be pictures, it could be video, it could be text, it could be taking photos or snapshot of your Facebook. So you use different tools in order to show the diversity of your literacy skills. So can you actually create a PowerPoint? Can you create something with technology? Can you write a text? Can you make the text somehow embedded to show that you can use things other or different types of tools or different types of literary text, because video and picture is a text. They all are about communication. So it asks you to use different ways of expression and integrate them in a portfolio. So your portfolio, to be interesting, needs to integrate different forms of expression. So that's probably also aspect that it will be, to a degree, important to actually show control over. So some students might just produce a text and that's it, but that doesn't show that you have a control over different different forms of expression. So yes, use some pictures, maybe can you take pictures of your Facebook or someone else's Facebook, or can you take a photo of a screen? There are tools for it. We could talk about it. So just different forms of expression. Now, I don't really judge it that much. What I do judge is how you see all of this relevant to the concept of literacy itself and in schools. So why do they talk about multimodal literacy, and how is that relevant? So why do they talk about multimodal literacy, which means there must be some concept of literacy that integrates multimodality, and has that relevant to classroom? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, that makes more sense.
Laura, please join the discussion when you are ready.
Yeah, I'm listening in and just taking some notes.
Okay. Well, I am not showing on the screen of yours, but I am showing on the screen which will be available as a video recording of this Collaborate session. I'm showing now the assignments text, so that will be available on the video shortly after we finished. So basically, the tasks ask you to develop a multimodal literacy profile of yourself. So what does that mean? When you look at the key components of your profile, it says, what is literacy? So if you are to show a multimodal literacy profile of yourself, you really need to first define what literacy is, so that you can say, and this is a portfolio or a profile of this website is evidence of my literacy skills. So first you define literacy, and then you provide evidence of being a literate or versatile in literacy person. All right, so that's why if they ask you about the literacy profile, then you have to first define what literacy is. Otherwise, we don't know what we're talking about. And that's why this key component of your profile says what is literacy, and all components of your portfolio must draw on this definition. This is very important, and this is one of the things that I keep stressing for this assignment. To some of you, it may seem from experience that assignment 1 and assignment 2 are not connected. One is about your portfolio, the other one is about reading activities, two different things. Only on the surface. They actually, if you understand assignment 1, assignment 2 will be a breeze. Because once you understand what literacy is and are able to actually show yourself as a literate person, then you will actually know what kinds of components you will be targeting in your students in order to make them literate. So what kind of things you will be focusing on in your reading resource in order to assess their reading skills. So in fact, assignment 2, it's almost a different way of doing assignment 1. It may not look to you at this very moment in week 1 or 2 obvious, but that may not matter. What matters is that you do not take assignment 1 as very easy, because it's not. So definitely literacy is not just about reading, because what does it mean to read? And you will need to have a look at the texts that are on LearnLine and have a look what people, including myself, say there about what is reading. Now, I just mentioned here something that is very different about this unit, but very important. You don't have to go through all the materials that are on LearnLine. There's a lot of them. I mean, if you're keen, do all of them. I put a lot of them so you can pick and choose and think about the ones that sort of catch your fancy and have a look at this one and that one, or check on Google something that you like and just compare and contrast. There's absolutely nothing obligatory in this unit that you must cover and you must do from page 1 to page 100. I want you to be exploratory. I want you to actually use the literacy devices that you have in order to actually engage in this unit. So if we want to teach literacy to our students, we need to be literate ourselves. So we don't depend on a textbook, because that's not being literate. That's no different than people in Middle Ages reading just one book if they could afford it. Right? We're not actually following the book. What we're trying to do is to actually use our literacy skills in order to engage in this unit the way that makes sense to us. So the stuff which is on LearnLine is suggestions from me, but you feel free to explore and use your own readings and blogs and whatever you find. If there is something meaningful to you, please include it in your assignments. It's very, very important that your assignments have references. You can see that bullet point 5 says all theoretical statements must be referenced. So if you say literacy is blah, the blah has to have a reference. If you say reading is important because, and then you have some arguments, all of them have to be referenced. Nothing you know comes from you. Most of the things you will talk about, they come from other people's heads, the people who were before you here on this planet and wrote that stuff, and now you know and you need to reference it. It's extremely important. It's extremely important so that you do not get into the habit of borrowing people's stuff and then one day someone will say you are a plagiarist. It's very, very important. Okay, so what do? We have stuff on LearnLine and for module 1 and module 2, and we can read about what literacy is, and we can read around, we can ask around and so on, and reference it and so on. So once we know what literacy is, then we can think to ourselves, what is it that we need to show now to make it evident that we see ourselves, or don't, as literate people, right? So whatever you'll be arguing, you always have to come back to the concept of literacy. So if literacy is blah, Then these are my components, and I'll show you now how I do it. So for example, I had students, a lot of students, and they make one mistake all the time. And I corrected in the draft on the discussion board where you actually submit your drafts and have discussions about assignment 1. I corrected and corrected, but people somehow find it difficult to grasp. And the marks go down then. What people say to me, I use Facebook and I use calendar and I use my watch and I use iPhone and so what? How does this make you literate? Literally, a lot of these skills you can teach a chimpanzee. I mean, not to be offensive, but you know what I'm saying. There must be something about the idea of being literate that using Facebook alone is not good argument in itself. If you use an example, you have to use it in order as an evidence. Me using Facebook shows that I'm literate because the definition of literacy says that, and therefore the use of Facebook is one of the evidences that I am showing to you that illustrates that I'm a literate person. You guys get it? Hey? It's very easy to fall into the trap of actually listing things. When you list things, it means nothing. You have to integrate your examples in your definition of literacy, and then I can see that you can think. And if you can think and write about it in a way that is coherent, you're literate. If you just list things, that's very, very simple writing. That doesn't show a person who is literate. It just shows a person who can write down the thoughts. And here's the difference between literacy, being literate, and being just able to write. A person who can just write can write down their thoughts. A person who is literate can actually manage their thinking. They can think before they write. They can demonstrate a thinking process. So it's one thing to go to the garden and say, well, I see a tree, I see a wall, I see grass, I see tree, whatever else, chairs. And it's another thing to say what a well-designed garden should look like. And in relation to those criteria, I can tell you why I think that your garden is well-designed or not. That's writing in a reflective way, in a thoughtful way. The other one was just listing. And since I'm talking, and this is just the last sentence I will say before I ask you some questions, these are very, very important concepts, because as from now on, I want you to focus on what really matters in the curriculum. And that's not what year one, year 2, year 3 outcomes say, but how they link to the general capabilities or generic skills or higher order thinking skills, all those big skills that are actually on top of the curriculum. I call them the hooks, the cornerstones on which everything hangs. And just the other day we had a symposium here in Charles Darwin University, and I was its main organizer. And we had a very famous professor in literacy who also is responsible. He was one of the people who wrote the ACARA curriculum. And I spoke to him about it. And he's aware of it, that people very often focus on the detail when working with curriculum and forget general capabilities of the higher order skills. And as a result, teachers, when they do it, rather than teaching literacy skills, they teach how to put words on paper. So rather than creating critical participants, students who are critical participants in the knowledge society, what they create is just basically I don't know. What do you call it? Really, really unskilled workers who can just basically put words down on paper. That's not the 21st century requirement. In the 21st century, hardly anybody is illiterate. Well, people are literate, but you know what I'm saying. This is not where jobs are, and this is not where the skills for employability are. And as Australia and America and probably Europe soon are going to a white culture society where we don't produce anymore holdings and all of that, but we actually have computer and service jobs, putting words down on paper is not the skill that we should be teaching. Okay, so here's my bit. Anybody wants to say something? Hey guys.
Sorry, busy writing. I think that makes more sense now. So all of the bits and pieces that are literacy or literate in the way that I am, I need to back it up with evidence as far as academic
Languages or academic requirements are concerned. Yeah.
Yeah.
Another thing, guys, have you read anything so far, or are you just raw at this very moment?
Been reading lots.
Okay, so what would you want to share with us?
Put me on the spot.
No, not really. It's just a chat at this very moment.
No, I think that I've just, I guess, been taking it a bit more in as far as that everyone, how they translate things is different, going off of their experiences and culture and all that sort of thing. So there's no set way of understanding text. Everyone's different.
But you can see now that I'm not sure, guys, if you are aware, but there's been a lot of fights about Australian curriculum out there on the political scene. And why do you think people always fight about how curriculum should look like? I found it always very interesting how people have these fights about the curriculum. And there's this recent fight again, and with the government and the scholars, and we have this new, whatever his name is, Ken Dave. No, what's his name? This guy, I forgot his name now. The guy from Catholic University that is now presiding over the new changes and so on. Why do you think people fight about the curriculum? I mean, some outcomes are obvious. There's nothing to add to it. So why are they fighting all the time? I mean, we are in the 21st century and we're still fighting about the curriculum.
Everyone has their own opinion. They've got different views on different things.
Yeah, but you see, we are in the 21st century, and people like Peter Freebody, who was one of the people who wrote the current curriculum, he's about, I don't know, I mean, he's going to hit me now, but he would be between 65 and 70. He's an not old man, he's a young man and slim and beautiful, but what I'm saying is he's not 20, he's not 30, he's not even 40. Right? So people have done a lot of writing. I mean, there's been a lot of professors that either now retired or have died, have put a lot of work in the curriculum, and we're still not settled with it.
But the world's ever changing, so it's never going to be a hard and fast rule that's going to last forever. It's got to evolve with society and how the changes are, new technology, all that sort of stuff.
Maybe. I'm not so sure. So that's something, it's a one day if you guys consider doing masters in education, you might actually write about it. It's a very good project actually to analyze why we're changing continuously, and these changes are coming not easily. People are fighting. One of the things that people are fighting about, as I can see, is the place of critical thinking and reflection in literacy. So we've got these people like Mary Brennan. I don't know, Mary Brennan probably, now she is, where is she? I think maybe University of Victoria. very famous person who worked on the curriculum, and Peter Freebody and so on. They certainly see literacy as a capacity to read text in relation to the world, which is you've got to actually, there are a couple of elements involved here, but just to keep it simple, a text is not a product of one's mind. A text is a product that reflects one's interactions with the world, right? That's why different poets write differently, because they experience the world differently. And so that's poetry, but the same comes to us. Each of you, when I read your student assignments, each of you writes about different things and differently. So your writing reflects your experiences, and the way you read text will also reflect your experiences. That's why, if you want to read the manual of how to build a helicopter, you might find it a little bit challenging. I would. So what happens is that the place of this critical management of information, in a way that enables you to assess why people say things and what intentions they have, and in what place were they in a sense of educationally or politically and so on when they were producing these texts. So in order for you to understand all the elements around the text, you actually have to be able to read the world and yourself in the world. There's a lot of elements actually in every text that play out. So people like Freebody and Mary Brennan would say, yes, you've got to have children right from the beginning to be aware of themselves in the world and of others in the world. Not just about, write your name A-N-N-A, right, Anna, or something like that. That's just not all that there is. But a lot of people try to simplify it and want to say, well, the critical thinking is not so important. Direct instruction is now being rolled out in schools in Northern Territory and in Queensland. Now we need to give them the basics, and we know what's the basics because we are in a straight, direct interaction with God, who tells us what's simple and what's complex. The problem is that neuroscience says that by the age of 5 or 6, if you didn't actually enable your child to learn critical thinking skills, it's all over. I'll find that evidence for you soon, probably for the next Collaborate session. But basically, there are particular interactions with the frontal cortex that develop. I mean, the frontal cortex is fully developed when you're 25, but there are particular things which need to be put in place in the frontal cortex when you are by the time you are 5 or 6. If you don't do that, it's all over. It's finished. The game is over. You already are now training the child to be just, reproducer, no longer a thinker. Research shows that children by the age of 7 have very strong understandings of their own capacities. And if you didn't empower them when they were little, by the age of 7, you probably have them lost. And they no longer want to be CEOs and pilots. They just want to be cleaner. They're bored with work and school, and they just want to play and not come to school at all. So a lot of things that you will see in little children when they are 7 or 8 or 6, they are not genetically generated. They are actually generated by their environment. So as much as there is a movement around, and especially around some conservative groups that just want to see children write letter A and B and C on paper, the more intelligent movement that comes from critical pedagogy, critical literacy, and that now backed up by neuroscience says you better look after these children when they are little, because by the time they are about year 1 and year 2, the game is over. So I don't know whether all of you will be in early literacy, working in early childhood, but this is the most critical time in children's life. So it seems to me that these fights that they have about the curriculum are basically about efficiency. There is the intellectual side of the movement that says everything, wherever we look, we need to actually treat children in a way that enables them to actually see themselves in the world and assess themselves in that world. And it's the other one says, oh, there is no world, not until they are 9 or 10 years old. First, we'll just drill them into A, B, C, D. And those children, of course, if you actually look on YouTube and type direct instruction, you will see they sit there bored, absolutely hating it. They can't even put it together why they are writing A, B, C. So how literate are they? Or how is the school making them literate when they can't even make sense why they're actually doing this? And we come back again to the concept of what does literate mean. It also means to know why you're actually using literacy at all. So we're living in a print society, with no doubt. We're living in a print society, but we also live in a society which uses different forms of expression. If you keep someone in a cage and they are not part of this world, they are not gonna be able to read the world, and they're not gonna be able to interpret themselves in that world. So a lot of things will be to them new, foreign, frightening, unmanageable, and they will have to find some alternative ways of dealing with the world. So we're living in a complex world. In a complex world where not only we have challenges as teachers, but now we are also stuck between politicians and different classes of people who think, or different people from different intellectual or non-intellectual directions. And as teachers, you'll be hearing throughout your career, give them basics, and other people will say to you, well, no, these kids need to actually be treated as serious human beings, because if we don't teach them from the beginning these skills, they will not have them. And then we are always stuck with a problem, because we actually neglected these kids when they were little. So you can see that literacy and being a teacher, it's not a simple thing. It's not just a simple thing of following a manual, because different person will write the manual at different times with different governments in power. So whatever you do, you still are the one who needs to understand what you do. And this assignment with this portfolio or literacy profile is a very important one, because it actually introduces you now to reflecting on what literacy is, how you were taught literacy when you were little. What do you think about those methods? What is it that you actually have learned? And how helpful was it at the time when you were actually learning it? What were you enabled to do? What were you not enabled to do? A very serious assignment, because now then we will be then translating this assignment to what does being literate mean today, and therefore which kinds of practices in classrooms are enabling children to feel empowered, and which ones actually don't. Which kinds of practices enable children to actually reflect on themselves and on the world as they work with text or different forms of or different modalities, and which ones actually prevent them, which ones are limiting, and which activities are expansive. The word expansive is very often used in education. You might have already encountered it. So there are teaching activities that limit children, and then there are approaches or ways of working with children which are expansive. They expand their mind. Okay, everybody's still there? Yeah. All right, so is the assignment looking now more doable? Laura?
I'll need to sit down and listen to this Collaborate session again, just take some notes, but probably.
Yes. Um, I probably should, if you could go also, I mean, I will upload it on YouTube and you'll be able to listen to it. And it's the easiest way to actually make it available quickly. Otherwise, I have to wait until Blackboard converts things, and this is just too difficult. So I will make the link available, and it would be good to go on the discussion board, which has assignment 1 forum, where we can actually follow the discussions there regarding assignment 1, and that's important because I'm actually looking at it right now. So we can actually have some interactive engagement in it, so not everybody, so that it's not just a video and then you just work on your own. We can actually discuss it and so on. Okay, so that's one thing. Now we also have on LearnLine some stuff that I have posted from previous semesters when I was teaching this unit. Use those resources, play with them if you want to do that. It's all there for you to actually explore. I put it there because you know, some students actually like listening to Collaborate sessions from other semesters, and they might want to watch some lectures that happened then, and they're good resources. So do that too. Okay, so are we done for today?
Yeah, I think so. Anya, you've made it a lot clearer. Thank you.
So basically, other than the assignment, I wanted to say explore readings, explore the net, use the examples I have given, use other examples of readings or of videos that you find on YouTube or whatever. Make sure that you reference things. So you don't have to just reference printed text. You can actually reference videos on YouTube you watched about literacy or about anything that actually you see as relevant. So do watch, do reference. There is no linear progression in this unit, so you can watch whatever. You can select the readings from LearnLine that you want to read. You don't have to read everything. So just play with the things and enjoy the unit rather than seeing it as a you know, step-by-step kind of what do you call it? A goose march. What is it? Was it called the Nazi walk? What do they call it? I forgot the word for it. You know, sort of like a restricted and limiting unit. You are allowed to embed YouTube clips into your PowerPoint, but with one important thing, Sally. You need to write next to the YouTube a summary. What's the movie about and why are you inserting it? This is very important. A very, very bad habit that a lot of postgraduate students have is they say, and Anya Lyon said, and they put like half a page of a quote. I can read Anya Lyon or Dick Smith or whoever. What each time you quote someone, what you need to show is your understanding of that quote. So what you have to say is Anya Lyon says that literacy is blah, 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 and she thinks this is the best way to teach it. And here's the quote to verify what I just said. So whether you use YouTube or someone's quotes, you have to actually introduce it or describe it so that I, as a teacher, can see whether you actually understand what you are showing or what you are quoting. That's a very important skill. You will use it one day as a teacher, you will use it one day as an executive, because as you grow older or in the hierarchy, your responsibilities become bigger, and these skills will be expected of you. So you need to know how to actually work with videos or how to insert things, including quotes. They need to be introduced by you first and explained, and then a quote or a video is just demonstration of what you have actually said as a text. So yes, the key is, of course, for the portfolio of that profile of yours to be multimodal. So multimodal means inserting YouTube videos, inserting different modalities, different forms of expression, different so-called texts. I think that's enough of overload for today. I'll just next week I am in Taiwan at the conference, so I can't make it for the collaborate next week on Tuesday, but we could run it on Thursday night. So that would be a good night to actually, so we still could have it next week, but run it on Thursday. And then we might run another one in December. And then we probably will call it off for Christmas, and you can use the resources which are online. And then maybe in January we come back joyfully again. Thank you very much, Sally. Thank you. I'm going for a conference. I am a vice president of research and innovation in this particular organization with technology and language learning, and I just have a number of performances to do. So I'll have a lovely trip and a very busy trip. Okay. All right, guys. See you next week then. I'll just make sure that we meet on Thursday, 27th. Same time. Great, Laura. Great. Okay. Well, I'll turn off the recording and we talk next week. And please go to the discussion forum and start talking about assignment 1 to help one another, which would be very good. Okay, bye. Thank you.